The reptile community and greater animal community as a whole has become obsessed with punishment and competition, and I want to talk about it. A community that should center around our shared passion and love for animals is instead often eclipsed by this need to compete to feed our own egos. And it's gotten out of hand. It just feels like there are parts of this community that have really that was a weird noise. It just feels like there are parts of this community that have really gamified this hobby, where you either earn their approval and are deemed worthy of having these animals, or they shun you entirely and aggressively target your inherent value as a human being. This is a topic that I feel like really needs to be discussed. It's honestly weighed heavy on me for like a decade now, but I've always hesitated to like make a full proper video on it because I don't want my words to get misconstrued. I've always been a little worried that if I fail to articulate myself properly, it will put me at risk of coming across like I'm saying we should ignore situations that suggest an animal is being abused, or that I'm somehow bothered by people showing genuine concern for an animal's well-being. And that's not the case. That's not what I'm bothered by. It's a difficult community to even critique because at the end of the day, nobody wants an animal to be hurt. Nobody wants an animal to be abused or neglected. So I do understand that it is natural when you are in this community for people to have questions and have concerns about your animal's well-being from time to time. And that's fine. In that light, I completely agree. I think it is a harmless and unavoidable aspect of this community. And I'm not about to argue that you can't dislike people or critique people when it comes to the way that they take care of their animals. My issue lies with a very specific subset of people in this community who are obsessed with critiquing every single possible step other people in the hobby take and are constantly looking for reasons to prove that you are not good enough to be here. In reality, holding someone accountable for actual animal abuse is very different than this obsession to take every disagreement and equate it with people not being worthy to have their animals. Some portions of this community have just lost the plot so hard. When the way that we approach disagreements is indistinguishable from the way that we approach actual animal abuse, it just makes it harder to determine actual cases of abuse and actually get some sort of justice for animals that are actively being neglected and abused. Because when every single day a different disagreement is being equated to abuse, how are we going to rally behind getting justice for animals when they actually need it, when we're just so caught up in gossiping about every other person that we disagree with? So regardless of if you're just a casual consumer of animal-related content, or if you're someone that is actively participating in this hobby, please just let me plead my case as to why I think this community needs to get nicer. Now, no matter who you are, if you do decide to share an animal online, that is one of the easiest ways to draw everyone out of the woodworks to offer you unsolicited advice about how to take care of said animal. For a lot of people, when they come across content online that involves someone being responsible for the well-being of an animal, it definitely evokes this like looming anxiety within them just to observe the content at all. A lot of people automatically start running through this checklist in their head of like, are they doing everything right? Is the animal healthy? I hope that animal is happy. These feelings obviously make people compelled to voice a concern when they come across animal-related content online. And that compulsion to share that advice is obviously heightened when they think someone is doing something wrong with an animal. And again, I completely understand why. I experience those same feelings oftentimes when I come across people taking care of animals online. If it's someone I don't know, if they are doing something that I wouldn't do, I understand that anxiety of, oh my God, I hope that animal's okay. I fully understand the sentiment and the gut need to protect. And what makes people even more anxious to begin with is the fact that genuine animal abuse does exist. Genuine neglect does happen every day and gets slipped under the rug. Oftentimes until it is like at its most extreme, and then sometimes it is exposed then, but that is already at the end stage of an animal having to endure years and years and years of suffering before they are saved from those situations. It's a real ordeal that is happening in this world, and there are way too lax of laws on animals' rights and animals' well-being and animals' protections. We need way better regulations for all that to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. But because of that whole dark underbelly, there is definitely always an anxiety surrounding animal content online. But the people I find issue with in this community are not operating from that place of concern. Maybe some of them started out that way, but they have completely lost themselves in obsessing over the ways that other people in this community do not meet their own arbitrary standards. Because that person doesn't do everything you would do, you suddenly decide they are not good enough to be in this community, they are incapable of learning and growing. Scram. Get out of here, you're not welcome. Basically. Disagreements are just immediately turned into throwing the label abuser back and forth. I don't like what you do, that's abuse. You don't like what I do, I'm abusing them. It's this back and forth of immediately throwing the most intense accusations you can throw at someone just because you don't like them. The result is a complete and utter rejection of someone within this hobby, completely ousting them, completely ostracizing them from this community over small disagreements. And I just see it happen again and again and again and again. And I've been watching it happen again and again and again for 10 years now. And I feel like there has to be a middle ground. I feel like we have to be able to get somewhere where we can still voice concern when it is warranted, and we can still fight for getting help for animals that are genuinely abused, but there has to be a middle ground where we can be more accepting of people that we just don't 100% agree with. I feel like there has to be somewhere where we can bridge this gap between I don't like you, you're an abuser, versus I don't like everything you do, but clearly your animals are healthy and clearly you love them, so they're what are we doing? Like, there has to be some way to meet in the middle with all this. Another issue is I do feel like women in this hobby have subconsciously gotten in this cycle where they compete with other women. It feels like anytime a new woman is propped up in this hobby, that other women view it as competition, view it as a threat. And I feel like a lot of women are doing it without even realizing it's happening. Like, it's just something that is instilled within us to view other up and coming women as a threat to our own stability in the hobby. I just feel like it's something that is commonly reinforced in society to view other women as threats to yourself. And it is just an issue that also exists and persists in this hobby. It's just another angle where this competitiveness resides. It resides within women too. And men in this hobby often treat women as if they are uninformed and below them. Time and time again, men in this hobby are propped up and viewed as the authority to speak on animal care, and that women are just like underneath them and can only learn from them. That women don't have anything to offer to teach the men. It is always the men teaching everyone else. And that is another prevalent issue within this hobby. Again, this is not everyone in this hobby. I want to stress that there are so many great men and women in this hobby, but it is another issue. I've seen a lot of men have no consideration for the misogynistic dialogue that is opened up in their comment section whenever they make videos about a woman creator that they do not like. The comments often go straight to criticizing a woman's appearance, infantilizing her, talking about her like she is just a dumb, stupid little girl, and policing her every move and spinning everything onto she just wants attention. There's no way that she could be passionate about these animals. She just wants attention. And oftentimes it is spun to where the woman obviously wants male attention. It can never just be that a woman is in this hobby because she likes animals. It is always spun into something bizarre when a male creator decides they don't like someone. And again, this isn't to say that men can't dislike women in the hobby. I'm sure there are some really cruddy women in this hobby that you can just dislike. Yeah, I'm sure. And that's fine. And it's fine to critique them. And it is fine. You should feel safe voicing your opinions and concerns when it feels warranted. It just feels like there is no effort whatsoever to steer the conversation towards the actual concern, and that it often just quickly spins out of hand in the comment section where it is just a misogyny fest. It is just criticizing the woman for being a woman instead of just criticizing her actions that you disagree with within the hobby. When I first entered this hobby and people did not like me, my appearance was one of the top targets. I've had men make videos where they put a bra and underwear on and then they stick their animals on a bra and say that that's me, that's what I'm doing. It is a very big issue in this hobby in and of itself. It is another layer to where all this competition is sourced from. There is just a very gendered issue, sadly, where there is a lot of men that speak down to women, and inherently it creates this cycle where women view other women as competition instead of this just being a community about animals. It is this vastly competitive area, and it is very hard to navigate when you're just wanting to share animals. So often the conversation was shifted onto I must be a woman who wants attention just because I'm participating in the same hobby that men are participating in. Like, dude, we're doing the same thing. Why are you upset that I'm doing it? Why is it attention seeking when I do it? I don't understand. I don't get it. But the issue in this hobby goes far beyond some gender-based competition. I just do think that some of it is definitely sourced there. Some of it is definitely sourced within this need to try to be the best, the only good woman in the hobby, the only one doing it for the right reasons, while all the other women are attention seeking. And then the men constantly viewing women as someone that they can teach, but never someone that can offer anything that the men can't already offer. It's part of the pie, but not the whole pie. There's still a lot of pie left. It feels like the heart and soul of this competitive nature lies within this need to prop yourself up, to feed your own ego, to feel like the only person with morality that's caring for these animals. Everyone is in a competition to be like the best caretaker instead of it just being a community of people who all want to learn about animals. I feel like this has to exist in every community online where there are people that want to be the best at it. And I feel like we are no different. We are just using animal care as the vessel to prop up our own egos. Oftentimes, back when I was still just starting to learn about these animals, when people shared something that they did not agree with that I was doing, I would take it into consideration. Ultimately, I want the best for all my animals, and if someone thinks that there is a better method to achieve that, I'm going to look into it. And ultimately, after observing my own animals, I would make changes that I felt benefited their care. And I think this is an example of how sharing your experiences can positively impact another person with the same animal. You can offer advice using experience they might not yet have, and they can then try it and see if it is better for their specific animal than whatever conditions they are currently providing. Ultimately, sometimes I would find that the things that I was doing for my animals were good enough, but that there were alternative methods I could provide that would make them thrive. I just wish discussions like that would stay there, but they don't. Like I said, a decade later, it's still a strike on my record, and it's still a reason I am undeserving and incapable of having a happy animal. Now, some corners of this hobby are so stuck in this black and white competition of either you're the best or you're the worst. And that part of the community is obsessed with punishment. A conversation that could have just been, hey, my gecko personally likes this kind of enrichment. I see that you don't offer that much of that kind of enrichment. Maybe try it, see if yours likes it, is instead entirely skipped over, and it just goes straight to, you don't provide the same thing I provide, you're abusing your animal. Maybe someone has their animal in a 40-gallon, which according to the internet will be the standard basic adult enclosure, when in reality they could thrive in a 70-gallon. Yeah, maybe they just have to learn that. Maybe the information that they were taught the minimum, they were taught the basic, because it could be really confusing. Trying to navigate all of the information that is available out there for animals. There is so much contradicting information, and sometimes you have to actually experience it yourself to learn how to adjust your care to better suit your animal, because of just how much information there is out there. And that should be an okay part of this community. That should be an okay place to just have conversations. It again feels like it only feeds that contest that is centered around propping up your own ego in some game of morality Olympics. Like, here's all the reasons I'm a better person than you. Conversation closed. gotcha. Like, I don't, how is that helping an animal? I don't understand where an animal is getting helped in that scenario. We need to allow people to grow and learn in this hobby. If someone has an animal that is healthy and clearly loved and clearly given the amount of time needed, I don't see why we need to be so caught up in all the ways that we disagree with things that they've done along the way. If this person is continuously expanding their knowledge and continuously providing better and better care, what is the point of refusing to forgive them? Who is it benefiting? And I guess regardless of one person's personal motives in doing things like this, you could argue that who cares? Who cares if they're doing it to prop up their own ego if in the end animals are being helped? Which is a valid argument, but my stance on it is that I don't think any animals are being helped. I don't think this is helping a single animal. I don't think this competitive approach to the hobby and this perpetual punishment that we inflict on others in the hobby is resulting in the betterment of care for any animals. I have spent a decade in this hobby observing this cycle happen again and again and again, and I have never seen an animal benefit from it. I think if someone is genuinely in this hobby for the right reasons, they will constantly be improving their care, and that these like slamming indictments that people like target one person and go after them and cancel them, I don't think that changes anything. I think the change will happen naturally when we just have conversations with each other. Not to mention the personal impact that this aggressive targeting will have on people's well-being. That's a whole other part to this. But with all of that aside, the most important part to address, first and foremost, is the fact that it is not helping any animals, that this behavior isn't benefiting animal care. This behavior does nothing to help the animals that you people are insisting that you are so worried about to begin with. Overusing the most serious allegations of abuse and neglect just muddies the water and weakens the gravity of the claim. When people are witnessing animal abuse allegations being thrown at every single disagreement that there is online involving an animal, it is going to be harder to really get people to rally behind genuine, serious cases of abuse and to collectively take action and actually have something be done about it. Every single day gossiping about how each person is abusing their animals, it is harder to come together as a whole and actually make a difference when an animal is being abused. On top of it muddying the waters behind the gravity of the words abuse and neglect, this type of behavior also makes the accessibility for newcomers to get proper access to genuine advice a lot harder. The eagerness to shun and reject people from this community for any minor infraction will only result in people being more hesitant to ask questions. On top of this, it will also leave people apprehensive to share when mistakes actually do happen because they're going to be super worried about how the public will receive that information. And I'm talking about the types of mistakes that could be used as learning material for other people in the community. Conversations that could ultimately result in people being more diligent in their own animal care is just immediately shut down from the nervousness to share those mistakes. Because right now in this community, you have to act like you're doing everything perfectly or else you risk being rejected. If you can't feel safe to share when things are less than perfect, it will only result in a community that has less access to information that could have served as a learning experience for us collectively. It could have served as a way to teach us to know how to be on the lookout for any certain little issue that could result in actual harm happening to your animals. But instead, people are too scared to share these mistakes. Now, if your mistake is like, hey, I didn't feed my animal and it died, then yeah, obviously, you don't deserve to have that animal, like, obviously. But if your mistake was, hey, I discovered my animal was deficient in this less known vitamin, make sure your animal is getting properly supplemented with this vitamin so yours isn't deficient like mine is, then that could be good to know. Or if your issue is, hey, I bought wood from a reptile expo, I thought I cured it properly, I thought I treated it properly, but I still ended up with mites. So this is how I'm treating the mites, this is how I'm getting rid of it, and here's where you guys should be on the lookout to make sure you don't make the same mistake I do, so you don't end up with mites. Then yeah, like, those are good conversations to have. That could be beneficial for other people in the hobby. Learning about how to avoid similar predicaments when it is a genuine mistake is only good for the hobby to know. It is only good for the collective participants in this hobby to learn about. Ultimately, mistakes can be an opportunity for collective learning when people feel safe enough to be able to discuss them. I personally went through my journey in animal care with that exact mindset where I was always ready and willing to share any mistakes that happened. And while I still stand by that, and while I'm still glad that that's how I do it, I will say that that has gotten me completely rejected from parts of this community. It has absolutely fueled the people that look to shame people out of this hobby. They absolutely have had a field day with the fact that I share when mistakes happen. But I just stand by the idea that by sharing these mistakes, I am ultimately making other people more aware of some of the things that can go into taking care of these animals. Like, everything isn't always going to be perfect. Here are the things you have to look out for beyond just making sure your animal is fed and has water and has the proper environment. Like, these are some of the things you still have to be prepared to deal with, and here are mistakes and how to avoid them. I still feel like that is ultimately a good thing to share with everyone, but oh my God, a lot of people do not like that I've done that. A lot of people think that most people in this community are perfect, which is absolutely far from the case. It just circles back to the argument that I made that people are too scared to talk about mistakes. That's a real issue right now, is everyone in this hobby makes mistakes. Everyone in this hobby has dealt with things that are less than perfect, but I know from behind the scenes how scared people are to talk about those things, how they do not feel like they have a space to do that because it will lead to people in this hobby permanently rejecting them. When it is something everyone deals with, when you work with animals, it's never going to be perfect, especially when you work with a wide amount of animals. If you have one single animal, the odds of it going super smoothly are higher. It's like if you have one dog, you might have to take it to the vet for, his vaccines and his little checkups, but him getting sick might not happen at all. Now, if you are working with a huge collective of dogs, you work at a kennel or something, you work with rescues, the odds of you having to deal with sick pets is so much higher. The odds of you having to adjust some of their care to deviate from what you would have done with just one dog is a lot higher. There are so many unknown variables when you're working with a wide amount of animals that, things will go less than perfect sometimes, and that's okay. I think if your animal is ultimately healthy and is given the time and attention that they need, it is okay that things sometimes will be less than perfect. We should view the fact that people catch mistakes as a sign that they are being diligent in their care and that they are recognizing when things aren't perfect, instead of it being proof that the animals were neglected or abused into creating that mistake. Ultimately, I have experienced this extreme side of the community for a decade now. But when it was just happening to me, I truly believed that it was something I was doing that was causing it. I knew I wasn't abusing my animals in the way that people online would claim, but I did believe that there was something like inherently wrong with me as a human being that made people put off by me, that made people believe I was capable of doing these things. I blamed myself a lot. It messed up my mental health so much. I am still recovering from the way that it impacted my mental health to this day. I am still dealing with it. It really made me hate myself in a lot of ways because I figured I am doing something that is making people reject me. I am doing something that makes people think I'm not good enough. And when I say I dealt with this extreme side of the community, this is how extreme I'm talking, okay? I was doxxed nonstop. Because of the doxing, people called my apartment complex nonstop to leave fake complaints, to pretend that they are my neighbors and that they are bothered by me. This persisted so long that ultimately, when my apartment complex got taken over by new management, the new management didn't want to deal with it, and they told me I needed to find a new place to live, that they weren't kicking me out that day, but I needed to go. After that, I moved into my dream home. I figured I'm just gonna go all out. I'm gonna get this crazy cool dream home and turn it into just a paradise for my animals. I'm just gonna go all out. I lived there from March to April to May, and by June I was kicked out. People got my address and called so much, and this was a very prissy community that did not want to deal with that kind of stuff. Bunch of prissy old ladies, they didn't want to deal with it. So I had to go. People called animal control nonstop on me. Animal control legally had to show up roughly every 4 to 6 months because that was long enough for the animals that they saw last time they visited to now be unhealthy. So they had to show up. They showed up like clockwork. I never got a single citation. I never got an animal removed from my care. And I never even got a single tidbit of advice from these people. They never even had like a tip to share with me on how to do better with my animals. I had zero issues with animal control, but that did not matter. People kept calling them nonstop. They said that their calls were flooded by it. And again, I don't get how that could be argued that it is for the betterment of my animals. It was clearly harassment for the sake of harassment. It was clearly done to inconvenience me and make me feel unhappy. It was clearly done to make me feel the gravity of how much people hated me. I was stalked in person. I had people take pictures of me from like an angle anytime I went out just to talk badly about me online. I had people completely obliterate they're like just go ham on my appearance. People just constantly talked about how I was so ugly, how I wasn't good enough, how I had too many lip injections, how I didn't have enough. I did have too many lip injections. But even before that, the critique was nonstop, that it got to me. It made me insecure about my face and that's why I ended up getting lip injections and stuff. I don't have them anymore, but the constant critique on my appearance, how ugly I was for my age, how old I looked for my age, how I was ruining my body. People would guess that I'm gonna kill myself. People would hope that I'm gonna kill myself. People would laugh over the idea of me myself. And when I wasn't online, people still spent every second debating and guessing what I was doing when I was offline and coming up with reasons why whatever I was hypothetically doing was still bad and wrong. It completely played a role in my life deteriorating, and I just don't see how that helped a single animal. Not a single ounce of any of that behavior changed anything about my animals' lives. It did nothing. My animals' lives improved as I got to know each individual animal and their own specific, unique needs and accommodated for that. My animals' lives improved when I could collaborate with other people who were like-minded individuals that also had a love for these animals and had things to teach me. My animals' lives improved when I had a community to turn to feel safe to discuss anything that I thought needed improvement. None of that behavior resulted in anything good happening to a single animal. It just didn't. And I keep seeing this cycle repeat with a new person. There's always someone new each week that the community decides, hey, we hate this person. Let's go after them. And it is exhausting. It is so exhausting, and I don't understand any animal that is being helped from any of this. Like, at a certain point, we are no longer talking about animal welfare. We are talking about punishment for the sake of coming together over a mutual dislike of a person and to boost our own egos. This is not for the sake of any animal. People get so excited to rally behind the dislike of a person. People are so excited to punish someone. People are so excited to do that. They are obsessed with the idea of having someone to focus on and to punish. And I just feel like there has to be some line. There has to be some way to separate our dislike of a person versus the gravity of someone actually abusing an animal. And when that stuff was going on with me, a lot of it was from observers of the community, people who have these animals but aren't actively online. Like, it's people in the comment section who are within this community but aren't personally creators themselves. But at the same time, there were a bunch of creators actively participating in it. With everything being said, I am not saying we have to coddle everyone and be like, treat everyone like super sensitive little babies that can't handle criticism. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the way that we are going about it right now is not helping any animals at all. I know that it can be frustrating at times to see someone take care of an animal in a way that you think is just so like obviously wrong. Like, it's so clear that they could do better. And I understand the need to critique, and I understand the need to talk about it. And I don't think it's wrong to do so. I don't think it's wrong to call people out. I don't think it's wrong to disagree. I just feel like we have really crossed over from the goal being taking care of animals and wanting the best for animals. And we have moved it over to, again, feeding our own egos. It doesn't feel like right now we are truly, genuinely acting from a place of just wanting the best for animals. I feel like ultimately we are a community of people that love animals and are passionate about them, and that we should focus on that first. We should focus on inviting as much knowledge as possible into the community to ultimately benefit our animals, to ultimately have the ability to provide the best life possible for all of our animals because we are working together. I am not asking anyone to be less passionate about animal welfare. We should all want the best for animals, and of course that concern is heightened when you see someone willingly choose to take on the role of being responsible for an animal's well-being. I get that. We've just further and further deviated from this feeling of community and turned animal keeping into a competition on one's morality. Who's the best and why aren't you good enough? We need to not be so obsessed with punishing people, because at the end of the day, there will always be someone who's doing animal care better than you. There will always be someone better. I don't care how great you think you are, there is always going to be someone who is capable of more already and has already learned more than you have. And ultimately, we should just want to learn from those people. We shouldn't have it be a competition. And lastly, if we are being realistic, this hobby is extremely exploitative at its base level. This hobby in and of itself exploits animals so much and needs changes on a grander scale. The demand that there is to keep these animals in our home has in turn invited breeders to take these animals, take these living creatures, and turn them into a commodity and a product to sell. There is exploitation happening on a much bigger scale in this hobby that we all are participating in. We should all be calling for better regulation for these animals, because at the end of the day, aside from rescues, we are all participating in this hobby. We are all paying the same people, we are all paying the same group to go out and breed and exploit these animals on a grander scale. So we should start there. We should start there. We should all use that urge we feel to protect animals and start with the people that we are paying to get these animals from. We should start first on calling for better laws and regulations in the first place for this whole system that allows us to bring these animals into our homes. There is an absolutely amazing part of this community where we are all just super passionate and super in love with all of these beautiful species and all of these unique animals, and truly just appreciating all of these amazing animals that we get to work with. Depending on the animal, it often invites the general public to see these animals in a way that they have not seen before. For some of these animals, people are taught to fear them and disregard them and see them as lesser than. And this community helps change that perspective. This community helps people learn to fall in love with these animals. And I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And I love that part of this community. I love it so much. A passion for animals is wonderful, and we should all want the best for all of the animals that we share this earth with. We should all want animals to be loved and happy and safe and secure. We just need to stay focused on that instead of getting so caught up in this competition to fuel our own egos. Okay? That's it. That's all I have. That's all I have to say. Hopefully some of that made sense. I don't know. My brain has been so fried lately, but we'll talk about that another day. Thanks for listening to me plead my case. Okay, bye. Bye.